it can't be overstated. A positive mental attitude and a positive framing goes so far in life, instead of, and it is a glass half full. But if you really try to look at things that way, it is powerful.
Hello and welcome to the Move the Chains podcast. I'm glad you're here. Our guest today is a guy that I'm lucky enough to consider a friend. I look up to him. I enjoy talking to him. Sometimes hunting partner when I'm lucky enough to be able to chase him through the mountains. Brian Barney is our guest today. Brian, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. A long time no see. We just did a podcast over on the Eastman's elevated feed a couple days ago, and I'm still fired up over that conversation. So yeah, happy to be on.
I love hearing that, and I love being able to chat with you. So a little bit of background on Brian for folks listening. Look, Brian, you're on the show because you're one of the most driven, dedicated, passionate guys that I know. You've turned your passion for hunting, specifically bow hunting, into a lifestyle. I would consider you a professional hunter. I don't know if that's how you see it or not, but you get to make a living hunting. You get to document your hunts, write and speak about it. You've got the successful podcast, Eastman's Elevated. You're a successful business owner with a construction company. You've got a great family. I want to touch on how you've been able to create this life and be successful in all areas of your life, not just hunting. Obviously that's a specific pursuit that we have in common, but I think it's your mindset, your character, who you are as a person, and how you approach life that really resonate with me, and maybe the tens or hundreds of thousands of people who follow you. So I'm excited to catch up with you and dig into some of the things that you've been able to leverage as tools and habits to help you do all the things that you've done at such a high level. Yeah,
excited to chat about it. So wherever the conversation goes, I'm good. But it is. I'm really, really fortunate. I've been able to have this dream and this passion. Like, I love backcountry bow hunting, and through that, it's taught me a lot of lessons about discipline and hard work. And I've really built that the hunting career in the outdoor industry just brick by brick through loving it and reinvesting in myself, and through the years been able to create an income from it, and through that and through those lessons that I've learned and through that passion and love doing it, it's also made me better at every other facet of life. So I've tried to figure out how I can not be a slave to the man, or not be a slave to interest payments, and so I can have the free time to go enjoy the things I like to do. So I've really structured my life, and if I was 20 or 25 drawing out how I'd want it to end up, this is like beyond my wildest dreams. So yeah, man, happy to chat about it.
I think one of the things that might be fun to do is break this down into like beginner, intermediate, advanced, right? And if we go back to, like you just said, at 20 or 25, what would you say to somebody who, whether it's beginner in terms of like biological age, or even in terms of just getting started on a new habit, when you're in that beginning stage of whether it's lifestyle design or a specific pursuit, what are some of the things that you would recommend to get started?
Yeah, I think it's like first having passion for things, and then really mastering the craft. Like, nobody comes out and offers you $100,000 a year to go do a job. Like, you have to get good at that job first, and you have to build your value. And so really, I feel like you're investing in yourself. And I'm kind of talking, about multiple different fields here, from construction to the outdoor industry. Like, I didn't do as good in school as I could have. I was really into wrestling, and so I poured like a lot of my passion into wrestling, and that taught me a lot of good lessons about the harder I worked, the more I could achieve. And if I really put my all into something, like in school as boys, it's tough to sit down for 8 hours and learn about something that I'm not interested in. And so I just didn't apply myself as much as I could have in school. But as I got out, I found like in the construction world, like if you have good work ethic, if you have a good attitude and you show up day in, day out, you can work your way up in any field. And so, I was a young kid in construction and I knew I wanted to make money to support myself, but I just really applied myself to master that craft. Like I cared about it. So I showed up early and I rolled out cords. I stayed late. I took dump runs. I did everything I could do for this company I was working for. So at a very young age, I was telling, 40-year-old somethings like how to do construction, like I was running the crew, and worked my way up fairly quickly just by applying myself, by caring, by learning. And it also taught me that if I'm interested in it and if I apply myself, like I can get good at anything. And so I started to get good in construction. I started to get really good at bow hunting, my passion. And, I wasn't a great writer in high school, but all of a sudden, like I wanted to express myself and be able to articulate these feelings and the adventure and the challenge of it. And so I just started writing, but I started caring about it. And really, I'm a doer. I get an idea and I go for it and I'm all in. And so same thing in construction, like worked my way to the head of the field and was running a crew there. And pretty soon I started looking towards entrepreneurship and having my own business. And I started working side work on the weekends and on evenings to start with. And then pretty soon it was like, oh, I've got these people calling. I've built this reputation. Like, I think I can go out on my own and have my own business. So started looking into that and the steps that it would take and created my own business. And it wasn't like custom home after custom home came in. Like I had to work my way into the industry. And so, I was taking the jobs that nobody wanted, the really tough jobs, the re-roofs, the re-sidings, the tough remodels, things of that nature to work my name, work my reputation, and also gain that experience. Like everybody wants that instant gratification or that instant money. But for me, it's just been a progression throughout the years where I continue to get good at that field, continue to build my reputation, and then pretty soon these good jobs come in. And same thing in the hunting industry. Like I put myself out there and I started writing about my personal experiences and then had the idea to start the podcast. We're now in the 10th year of that podcast, haven't missed a week in 10 years. And so I just started it. I wasn't very good at it to begin with, but through that, it's made me better at conversation. It's made me better at, being able to articulate my thoughts. And then, I've got the chance to do film work. And when I'm getting these opportunities to write, to do the podcast, to do film work, I'm doing it all for free. And I kind of feel like that's reinvesting in myself. Like I am betting on myself that I am going to be able to master these skills, and eventually there's going to be some value there to these companies. And so I started them on my own. I got better at them. People started following or started connecting with the content that I put out there, and then pretty soon, I have this value in the industry. And so really, I've built both of these businesses, or I've built my life around just brick by brick, betting on myself and really mastering my craft and getting good at these skill sets, building value, and then I'm able to capitalize on that value. If that makes sense. It's kind of long-winded there, but
it makes so much sense. And there's so many things in there that I'd love to kind of highlight and go off on little branches of conversation with. As you're talking about the jobs that nobody wants, and that's how you had to start, I can't help but see parallels to, let's say, hunting, for example, right? Where, everybody wants those limited entry tags with, quality animals, trophy animals. And, as you're just getting started, or if you don't have a lot of, preference points built up, you're going to have to go general units or over the counter units, the tags that people don't want as much or aren't as coveted, right? In speaking, for me, when I first started speaking 10, 12 years ago, I'm doing stuff for free. I'm literally calling local places and saying, hey, can I come talk to your people about nutrition? Can I, come, trying to put it in terms of like how it would benefit them. Hey, I can help your workers, have more energy, take less sick days, whatever. Like just let me come in and talk. And, it's literally every pursuit that we might want to do. You have to start at that level. And I love hearing you talk about that. One of the other things you mentioned was you're a doer. And when you get this idea, you jump, you go all in. I know a lot of people that are that way. I also know a lot of people that aren't that way. So for the folks that may have hesitation, folks that maybe it's fear that holds them back. Maybe it's, I know there's some people that just feel like they need to see every step along that way before they take the first step. What would you say to somebody who has this desire for something, but can't quite take that first step?
Yeah, there's a fear of failing, and not all of my ideas work out. I've had failed ideas throughout the years, and not really failed businesses, but businesses that I've had to walk away from because I can't get the labor force to be able to run them, or I can't run them the way I want to. And so I've had to adjust throughout life as well. But I really feel like experience is the best teacher. And so you can overthink it or you can plan it, and it's good to be calculated. It's good to think through the options, but I'm such a doer and I jump in. So when I started the podcast, I mean, there wasn't a bunch of information on the internet, how to record or what you even needed. And I wasn't technically really good at audio or computers or anything. So I had to just figure it out. And I feel, I made mistakes along the way, but I'm such a doer that I dive in. I believe in myself and I believe that I can get it done. And I have this overall goal. And so I think just don't be afraid of failing. If it's something you really want and it's something you work towards every single day, you're going to get there. You're going to make it work. And so, I had this idea, like I also love to fly fish these rivers. And so I had this idea, the hunting podcast was doing really well. And I thought, well, I'll start a fly fishing podcast and I'll do that in my free time. And so I started that podcast and I ran it for about a year and a half or so. And I built a decent audience, but I just couldn't build a big enough audience. I didn't have the connections in that industry. I wasn't able to monetize it. And I was doing it through a company. And in the end, we just looked at it and it's like, my time's more valuable than what I'm making in this. Like this idea, it didn't work. I tried it. I committed to it for a year and a half and it didn't pan out. And so that failed. And that's like you're going to have failures. You're going to have to recalibrate. You're going to have to readjust. But if you just get started and do it, you give yourself a chance at success. You give yourself a chance at the life you really want. And so yeah, I'm a doer that I just kind of jump in and then I figure it out as I go. And really, I feel like that's the best way to figure things out or to get better at things is just to do them. So yeah, that's kind of my mindset or how I approach it.
I love that, man. It reminds me of that Teddy Roosevelt quote, it's the man in the arena. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen when people get in the arena, you take that step, you get off the sideline, you start doing the thing, and just when you're doing it and you're consistent, stuff happens, doors open, things that you just, they aren't logical. You couldn't have predicted some of the way that things happen when you're, again, in the arena. And you used the phrase figure it out a couple of different times. And every time I hear somebody say that, I think about one of my really good friends and mentors is Paul Reddick. And he used to work at the Yogi Berra Museum, spent time with Yogi for years. And I asked him one day, I said, what's your favorite Yogiism? And he starts laughing. And so Paul was a pitcher. He got drafted by the Pirates. And he asked Yogi, he's like, hey, how did you guys, like in your days, you were coming up, you didn't have the internet. You couldn't go read magazines on how to throw curveballs or do this or do that. It's like, how'd you guys figure it out? And of course, Yogi looks at him and he says, well, the ones that figured it out. And it's like, I mean, it's a perfect Yogiism, but it's exactly what you're saying. I mean, you just have to start. You got to get in it. You got to be doing it. So one of the other things I want to kind of highlight, you mentioned, I'll call it financial health. And you're one of the few people I know who's in a unique position where, you really don't have a lot of debt. If I'm not mistaken, your house is paid off, your truck is paid off. These are things that enable you to put less pressure on your desired lifestyle to provide a certain amount of income, meaning like the podcast or the things that you're pursuing with hunting. So can you talk about how you got to that point? And was that something that you were working towards from a very early age?
Yeah, it definitely was something I was working towards at a younger age. Like construction can be up and down. You don't know how much you're going to make from month to month. And before 2008, that financial crisis that happened, like the only thing I knew was value goes up. Everything you buy sells for more money. There was so much like around the building industry, around housing. It was just crazy. So it was like all the money you make, you could pour into a spec house, you could pour into property, and you came out. And then 2008 hit, and I had a new house that I had just built for my family. It was we just moved in there, we hadn't been in there too long. So I had payments on that. I had a truck payment and had a new truck that I was going, and I kind of made the excuse that, well, I'm in construction. It's a tax write-off, which a tax write-off, like you have to spend that money to get the write-off. Once I start to think about it, it doesn't make sense to spend $30,000 or $40,000 to then write off, to not have to pay your 20% income tax on that $30,000 or $40,000. But it's basically kicking the can down the road and spending everything you make in these payments. And you have to have a reliable vehicle. You have to have housing. But hit that 2008 crisis, and I had a spec home going. I had my personal home. I had my truck, my business. We started in 2001, 2002, but I wasn't making a ton of money at that point. It was probably under $50,000 a year, and so things got really tight. Like I had to sell off everything I owned, and I'm a man of my word. I'm a man of integrity, and so anything I committed to, like I made my payments, and I pretty much built that spec house. And I had to sell it and not make any money, not even pay myself my wages for building it. I pretty much had to give it away, like a year's worth of work of weekends and evenings. And it was like, man, I got to get out of this debt load. So after 2008, I really got a lot more conservative. We don't know what's going to happen next year or 2 or 3 years down the road. And so from that, I was like, man, if I could get myself out of debt, like I could keep all the money that I'm making. I would have more free time to do the things I'm enjoyed. I wouldn't be such a slave to these payments. And so, yeah, I started working hard at it. And really, I didn't make good money when I was young, or even in the younger years of owning that business. I just didn't know my value. I would bid things for just what I could get done or just what I could do, and I would make wages. I was just trying to grow my name, and I didn't have the reputation or I feel like I had the value that I have now, or knowing my worth now. And so what I did is I was just really good with my money. Is like, I could have all the new fancy hunting gear, but then I wouldn't have money to put gas in my truck, or I couldn't take off work. So that didn't make much sense to me. And so from that point forward, I just started working really hard, and I didn't make $100,000 a year. I made $50,000 a year or less, but I just saved a lot of my money, and I started I paid off all my credit cards. I paid off my truck and started buying used trucks and paying cash for them. I started adding up the interest on a truck. And basically the way interest works is if you have a 10% loan on $30,000 for 5 years, well, you pay that 10% for every year. So you're paying $3,000 times 5 years, $15,000 extra dollars for that truck to be able to finance it. And that's just an example. Now trucks are 50 or 60,000. And so I just didn't like that debt and those payments. And so I started investing the money I had into housing and into my personal houses. And so my wife will attest that we're part gypsy, that we move a lot, because I would build these houses, and then I'd build them for like free labor. I'd do all the labor. I'd work 100-hour weeks, and I'd work evenings and weekends on my personal houses, and I'd build them, and then I'd get done, and I pretty much built a house for half price because I didn't pay any labor because I did everything. And then I would sell that house. I would make a profit on it, and that profit I'd roll into the next one. And so I just started working on these personal investments, and then pretty soon I find myself in a house that's totally paid for. I find myself, not only my rig, my wife's rig's paid off, but both my girls' rigs are paid off. Like I've just ran this cash lifestyle now of like not having that interest, not having those monthly payments. So then I started to keep all the money I'd make. And then pretty soon my business was doing good. And I built all these side hustles in the outdoor industry, started doing really good. all of a sudden I'm keeping all the money I've made, and then I'm starting to invest it in different places. And then all of a sudden I've created an income from that. So I've got all these income streams that are coming in with no bills. Like, it starts to add up pretty quick. And then I've got all the free time to chase my passion and go bow hunting. Like, I can take a month off. I can take the month of September off. I can take a couple months off, and I'm fine. My bills are paid. And so, it's not easy, and it takes a lot of years, but it's like this financial goal and mindset of mine that eventually comes to fruition, and you start doing that for 5 years or 10 years, and all of a sudden it starts to compound where it's like, man, I'm in a really good position. Like, I don't know, I know exactly how I got here, but it's taken a lot of hard work, and it's tough to write a credit card company. Like, I had to do credit cards to finish my first house. My loan wasn't enough, and the bid went over a bit. And so it's tough to send a credit card company $10,000, but boy, to get out of those interest payments per month and have that hanging over my head, just made sense to me. So that's kind of how I've lived my life.
It's so savvy, and I'm really happy for you that you're at a point where you get to do stuff like that. It's just really cool. So thanks for sharing that and walking us through how you were able to make that happen. I think that'll be helpful for a lot of people. So we've kind of, like, at the beginning, I said kind of beginner, intermediate, advanced. I think one of the things that we were talking about the other day on your show, and I'd love to maybe have a version of that conversation here, as you move, especially in the hunting world, from beginner to intermediate to advanced. You were talking about this concept of shrinking mountains, and you made the point that you look up now and you're like, hey, I can cover twice as many miles on a river as I could 4 or 5 years ago, or go twice as far on foot in the mountains as I could 4 or 5 years ago. And even 4 or 5 years ago, you were probably at what many would consider an advanced stage in terms of being a hunter. And you were able to make that progress because every single day, all year long, you were waking up and asking yourself, what can I do today to get a little bit better than I was yesterday? Can you talk a little bit about some of those things that you do and, what that approach has been like for you?
Yeah. So, hunting the backcountry, being at my best bow hunting, it's like what I was put on this earth to do. I feel it's my absolute passion, and I love it with every fiber of my being. And I've learned that it's a lifestyle, and it's working hard towards my goals year round. And it's taught me so many great life lessons about discipline and hard work. And it's, when you get out there on a backcountry bow hunt, it's one of the most challenging endeavors. Like, the mountains are steep, the miles are big, you've got adverse weather conditions, and then the quarry, like, mule deer is one of my favorite, and they've evolved from thousands of years of avoiding mountain lions. Like, in a mountain lion is way sneakier than I can ever be. So it's like it's really, really challenging to find success on a backcountry bow hunt. And even more challenging yet is to be consistent and to show up year after year with these older age class animals. And so, I realized the commitment that it took. And so I started working hard year round. I started having discipline day in, day out. And I started looking at it as like, how can I improve on this craft of bow hunting? And I break it down into different facets, physical fitness, mental toughness, shooting ability. There's also instincts in there. There's time, like e-scouting through Google Earth, through OnX, things of that nature. And so every day I wake up and I think about bow hunting and how difficult it is, and putting in the work is a bit like paying my dues towards season. And so every day I'm looking to get better at bow hunting, and that's lacing up my running shoes. That's doing my CrossFit style workouts. That's shooting my bow. Instead of watching TV, I'm looking at OnX, Google Earth. I'm making hunt plans down in my notes. Like, it's ridiculous the work that I put into it, but it is an absolute labor of love. And so every day I'm starting to get these small percentages that I'm improving. And maybe it's 0.1%, maybe it's 0.100% at this point, but that means every 10 days I'm 1% better than I was last season, or every 100 days I'm 1% better. And right now I'm just looking for those small percentages of improvement to give myself a good chance at success next season. And so that idea of shrinking mountains, really, it's a mindset for me, and it does take physical fitness, but it's just wrapping my mind. And so I was doing these winter runs, and I could look up and I could see this radio tower, and it is way out there. It's, 3,000 feet of elevation gain. It's probably 6 or 8 miles to it, 6 or 8 miles back. And it looked like a long ways. And I was running every day, halfway up the hill and halfway back. I was getting 1,000 feet of elevation. I'd get in 6 miles or so total. So 3 in, 3 back. And I just started to look, and it looked like so far to me. But then one day I'm just like, man, I really want to shrink these mountains and try to cover double the distance of even what I've done in the past. And so I just started setting aside more time for running, 2 hours of running instead of 1 hour, mix in like my weight training and things of that nature every other day. And pretty soon I'm running to that radio tower every other day and coming back that like at the beginning or at the start or a couple years ago, I'd look at that, I wouldn't even run to that place. And really, it's just this mindset shift. And same thing in the mountains is like, all of a sudden I look at the mountains different. It's not to go up and hunt 1 drainage or 2 drainages. It's like, I'll hunt those drainages and then I'll move my camp and I'll hunt these other 2. Or now all of a sudden 15 or 20 miles in the mountains doesn't seem that bad to me. It's just hiking with a pack on. And I train year round. Like, I'm in good enough shape to do it. So it's just a mindset shift to like, these mountains don't seem as big as they used to be, or this big climb isn't as bad as I expected it to be. Like I made it up in 2-3 hours, like, and I still have energy because I'm in great physical shape. So that's kind of the concept behind shrinking the mountains, behind my self-improvement and this year-round pursuit of being like the best bow hunter I can be.
I love it. You got me fired up. You have me wanting to go out and do some long runs with big elevation gain. Let's stay in the mountains. And one of the things that I love about being in the mountains with you, I've gotten to see this firsthand, is your ability to stay optimistic, to reframe adversity in the moment. Can you talk about maybe some of the specific examples of when or are aware that you're doing that? And also, is that something that you had to teach yourself to do, or have you always sort of had that thought process?
Yeah, it's a habit, and it's something that I've created. And I mean, I do have a positive outlook, and we can tie this to the mountains, or we can tie it to construction too. I've had my back against the wall and bids on houses, and like that last inflationary time we got with COVID, I mean, prices went through the roof with subs and with materials, but I had set forth this price that I was going to do this house for, and I had to get it done for that price. And so I had to work. I mean, we're talking, show up every single day for months and work for free to finish these things on the bid that I said that I'd do them from. But now I'm reaping the benefits of a great reputation of doing what I said I'm going to do. And so like, I just frame things in a positive manner, and I try to focus on like what my next move is. And so hunting, there's highs and lows as you go through in the mountains. And so you can put all this effort and you can hike 6, 8, 10 miles back into a spot that has been good to you in the past, or maybe that you've e-scouted and it looks just prime with good feeding features. And you get in there and all of a sudden there's a wall tent camp in there. There's 2 camps in there and there's guys hunting it. There's hunting pressure. They've run the elk out of there, whatever the case is. Now all of a sudden you've put all this effort in, and now you're standing there and you've got this negative news, this rain cloud that hangs over you. And it's not that I never get negative, but I just don't allow myself to sit in that space or sit in that despair. So all of a sudden I just start focusing on the positive. I start focusing on, okay, the elk aren't here. Like, I'm going to have to recalibrate. I'm going to have to readjust. Where do I think the elk are? Now there's this hunting pressure in this drainage. what if they moved all the elk one drainage over and there's nobody in there? So now I'm going to pack back up my camp. I'm going to go over to that drainage and I'm going to go see if there's any elk in that drainage. If they're not there, I'm going to have to recalibrate again. And so I'm constantly having to readjust, because these hunts, they just don't go as planned. Like it's very rarely my first choice or my A spot that I go in and I find a giant buck in there and I arrow him. It just doesn't happen that way. I might find a giant buck, but then I might miss him, and I might have to pick myself up from the lowest point of a bow hunt of missing a giant mule deer when I've created this opportunity and I've worked hard for it all year. But it's like, what do? I can either throw my bow and throw a fit and go home and sit in my despair and fail, or I pick myself up, I get back after it, I figure out my next move, and I go execute on that. And maybe that doesn't work out either, but eventually that pays off. And so I'm constantly trying to look at the positive and just focus on what my next move is, what I have to get done. And I show up with a good attitude, I put in the work, and it just works out for me in construction, in bow hunting. Like that positive mental attitude and that really focused on my next move or my next theory and then executing on it keeps my mind busy, and I'm able to pull myself out of that low and then eventually find success doing it. So yeah, it can't be overstated. A positive mental attitude and a positive framing goes so far in life, instead of, and it is a glass half full, but if you really try to look at things that way, it is powerful.
I'm just stuck laughing at this visual image I have of you throwing a tantrum and throwing your bow. That's so out of character for you. I'm trying to even imagine what that would look like.
Yeah, I've definitely thrown tantrums in the past, but yeah, I think I've grown as a person where I just don't allow myself to get there anymore. I don't allow myself to get frustrated, or I'm able to pull myself out of it. But I'm human and I make mistakes and I can get frustrated, on a job site, a cut doesn't go my way, or battling weather or something happens. I can definitely get frustrated, but I've been doing it long enough and kept this mindset to where now it's just a habit of mine. And so I can't help but frame it in a positive way and go, well, that cut didn't work out. I got to go buy some more at the lumberyard. I got to get back here. I messed it up, but I won't mess it up again. I know what I need to do now to get it done and get it done right. So yeah, there isn't many tantrums nowadays, but I am human and I do get frustrated and I do make mistakes and have to readjust or recalibrate. But for the most part, I've trained myself pretty good where, I just don't get too upset at things. I don't get too frustrated. Just pick myself up, get back after it.
One of the other lessons that I've learned from you in the mountains, especially in regards to hunting, is identifying those prime windows. And specifically, I'm referring to like the first couple of hours in the morning and the last couple of hours of daylight at the end of the day. And I think I'm going somewhere with this that's beyond just hunting. But if we just focus on hunting for a minute, knowing that those are your prime opportunities, then we know that in order to optimize our odds of success, we need to be in the right spot at those times. And I think that's been a huge shift for me in my success in hunting. And, we haven't had a chance to really go deep on how Zach and I doubled up in Utah in 2023, but it was really using that strategy from you where in the morning, we actually heard elk bugling in particular meadows. Now, they were already in the thick stuff and they were going to bed, but we knew where they were. And as you would always say, we're not going to leave elk to find elk, right? We know where they are. And if they don't know that we're hunting them, they're just going to do their thing. And so we literally stayed in that meadow all day long. And it felt, I don't want to say lazy, but there's this perception, if you follow the internet world, that elk hunting is all about how many miles can you put in a day. And, rather than log miles arbitrarily, we stay in that meadow from, daybreak until they start coming out again, 4, 5, 6 p.m. And we both got our elk at between 6 and 7 p.m. in a meadow where we had heard them at 7 or 8 in the morning. And I guess, like I said, where I want to go with this is there's a hunting lesson in there too, but I think beyond hunting, there's also that lesson of the goal is to make sure that the goal remains the goal, right? And in this case, the goal isn't logging miles so that you can say, hey, we did 20 miles just to say we did 20 miles. The goal is you're going to get your prey, right? And I'd love to hear you talk about how you maintain focus on the things that matter most and not get caught up in noise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the hunting world, there's a lot of guys that'll go hard and put forth the effort, but it is this timing, or it is this like knowledge that really included with the effort, but this knowledge or these instincts are like, it's putting in the effort at the right times. You could go do 20 miles in the middle of the day and you're not going to run into an elk. But what you want to do is you want to do 10 miles in the morning in the dark to try to hear those bugles, to try to locate that bull. And by the way, great execution on that bull, locating him and then waiting for him all evening instead of going in the timber and blowing him up, and then waiting in that park to have him come out in the evening and doubling up on two great bulls. That's just a great strategy. And so like in life, I think you have to really think through these things and make a strategy for where you want to get. And if you just go through the motions day in, day out, you're not executing at your highest level, or maybe you're not even working towards this end goal because you haven't thought about the strategy of how you're going to get there. So I think it's really important to put your effort in the right places. There's going to be a lot of people that doubt you, that a lot of people like to put you down due to their own shortcomings. Like, it's to hunt for a living is like trying to be a movie star. Everybody wants to do it, and very few people get there. And people will tell you, you can't hunt for a living. It's not even feasible or possible. You know, that's a dreamland. It's like wanting to play for the NFL. But I just don't let the noise affect me. I have this overall goal, and then I figure out a strategy of how I'm going to get there. It started with writing, and then it was podcasting, and then it's filming, and I still practice all three of these. Along with that, we have online courses. I'm constantly coming up with these ideas. And so even in the hunting industry, I've got multiple income streams that come in. Those income streams then free up my free time to go do what I love to do, is bow hunting. And then I'm able to share more of the journey with other people that then they connect with and bring the audiences to the platforms that I'm doing. So, a lot of where I've got has been strategy and putting my effort at the right places, or timing, putting my effort at the right time, like hunting elk mornings and evenings. Like, you start to look at the layout or the field that you're playing on or the mountain that you're hunting, and you realize that elk aren't very active in the middle of the day. They're active during the night. That's where they rut the hardest. And so my best window to catch them is right away in the morning or in the evening. And so I start putting all my focus into this morning and evening, and it's tough. Like, I'm in great shape. Like you were saying, it was more difficult to sit in that park all day long than it was to go hike 10 miles and put all that effort in. But it was the smarter play. You're putting your effort in the right spots. And so that's what I do hunting, is I put all my effort into that morning and into that evening, getting those encounters, locating that elk. And it's tough. Sometimes in the middle of the day, I'm sitting around, I'm taking a nap in the dirt, and I'm fueling myself so then I can hunt that morning and evening hard. And a lot of times that morning, I'm starting 2 hours before light. A lot of times in the evening, I'm not getting out till 2 hours after dark. So I'm worn out. I'm not getting sleep. So I'll catch up in that middle of the day, because that middle of the day is not where I want to put my effort. So yeah, I think you can extrapolate that out to like life, of like putting your effort in the right places and not just burning time, like making sure that you're putting your effort towards your overall goal, having a strategy of how you're going to get there, and that can adjust over time. But yeah, putting your effort in the right places, timing on things, I think it makes a huge difference, definitely in my bow hunting and in life as well.
As you were talking through that phrase that popped into my head was the difference between being busy and being productive.
Oh yeah, I like that.
I think that's you helped me figure out what it is that I was going for there. But yeah, I think, again, it's just, the other thing I wanted to highlight is, as you were talking through that, there's a very simple strategy for success. If we're going to oversimplify things and say, hey, here's your game plan, it's, as you said, it's have this goal. You've got a big goal, figure out what it is you want to do. You develop a strategy for how you're going to get there. And then it's relentless effort and consistency until you do get there. It's that move the chains philosophy. And, look, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it does mean it's not complicated. Right? We know that that's what it takes to be successful in any endeavor. So I'm curious for you, Brian, what do you see as like you're not a guy that sits on his laurels, right? So what goes through your head when you think about what you want to be able to achieve 5 years, 10 years from now?
Yeah. So where I see myself 5 years, 10 years from now is just more free time. And I'm on the edge of retirement now where I just want to spend more time doing the things I enjoy. And I say more time, I think I already get 100 days in the field or so, but I'm constantly moving the goal line. It's what I love to do, and it's my passion and where I like to apply myself. So I see myself succeeding in the construction business. I've got a young kid that I'm mentoring now that reminds me a lot of myself. He's a 1 in 100 carpenter. He's got the work ethic, the drive, just doesn't have the experience yet, but he works really hard for me. And I want to continue to mentor him along to maybe take over the business eventually, or maybe create his own. I've got my dad who's getting towards the end of his years and looking towards retirement. And so I kind of plan on running the construction company. I mean, I'm maybe like 2 to 5 years out from being totally done, retiring my dad and that, and then stepping away from construction just to have more time to do the things I enjoy, because I don't need to chase zeros anymore. I don't need to chase dollars. So if it isn't my absolute passion and something I love to do, like, I'm starting to cut those things away from my life. And so I'm looking at leaving that. I really enjoy the hunting industry stuff that I do. I film a lot of hunts, and I'm really proud at how these are coming out. I've got a couple great ones that are going to release this year that I'm really excited to show you and show my audience and things. But I think I'll continue to do that. I enjoy it. I enjoy the podcast. I enjoy writing. I enjoy filming. So I think I'll continue to work on that and put effort into that. But really, I'm starting to look at like what my life means, like where I'm going to get the most enjoyment out of life. I don't need to chase the zeros anymore. I don't need to chase the money. So it's starting to look at like what I really love to do and what I want to do. Love spending time with my family. I love fly fishing. I love bow hunting. So trail running. I love peak grabbing in the summertime, climbing these big peaks. I want to do some winter summits as well. And so I've just kind of got these things that I love to do. And so my life is really shifting towards spending my time doing that. But to do that, I have to have longevity. I have to take really good care of my body, really good care of my mind. I have to mitigate stress, not take on too much, not chase the dollar. So that's kind of my goal for 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, is really doing pretty much what I'm doing now, but cutting more off my plate to spend more time in the field and doing the things I love to do, scouting and trail running, and really doing that full time for as a passion project, really, as I've set myself up for it. So really that's the future, but yeah, taking really good care of my body so I can still push as hard as I can in the mountains now. So physical fitness is a huge part of my life. Physical fitness, mobility, nutrition, and it's doing the things now. Like, I'm 45 now, so I have to take really good care of myself to continue to do what I love to do into the future. So that's kind of the goal.
Got it. We talked a little bit the other day about some of the tags that you have for this coming fall. I'm curious, now that you know what some of those are, what does your prep look like? Not necessarily on the physical side, but for those specific hunts. Like, so, okay, Brian Barney finds out what tags he's got. How do you, like, what are you looking for? What are you thinking about with each specific hunt, and maybe the specific demands or requirements that hunt will take to be successful? And then how do you turn those into the things that you work on between now and then?
Yeah, so we definitely have like the foundation of the physical fitness, mental toughness, the shooting execution. Those are always on my mind because I know how difficult these things are. But as far as specific hunts, like I start to make a hunt plan for them. So I start to set aside a time window that I'm going to go do this hunt. So we'll take Montana elk. I did not draw a special permit this year, so I know that I'm hunting general spots. And really, for me, it's not just killing a bull nowadays. Like I want to get back to some of my roots in some of this big wilderness, which is some of the most rugged country in Montana. And I really want to go have an experience back in the high country around 10,000 feet with these huge granite rock cliffs and big open parks. And it's wild country. So I know that there's grizzly bears in there, and grizzly bears are something that I'm going to have to navigate both mentally for the fear side of things and also physically, as I might have to deal with the grizzly bear. So, I'm practicing with my pistol because I know I've got a grizzly bear hunt up, and I'm practicing my draw off my pistol, acquiring my sights and my target, squeezing off around. I'm practicing live fire practice because I'm going to be hunting a lot of these places solo, and it's my actions that are going to determine my safety or not. And I know that I'm going to have to deal with grizzly bears this year. And along with grizzly bears, like I start to prepare myself mentally of knowing, okay, I'm going to be by myself. It's going to be dark. I'm going to be sleeping in the dirt back there. Okay, how am I going to mitigate that fear? Okay, I'm going to camp in safe spots. I'm not going to be on ridge lines. I'm not going to be on main trails. I'm going to get back in the thick brush. And once I'm back in the thick brush, I'm going to set my camp in there. So a bear really has to wander in there out of his way to go check me out. Okay, what am I going to do with my pistol? I've got glow in the dark. I can't remember what those sights are called, but they're good for at night. I can see my sights off my pistol. Okay, so I'm going to be good with my pistol, good with my drawing, good with my execution. Okay, now I need to start to lay out logistics of like, what's my food look like? And the whole time I'm making this plan and I'm setting a time window, there are some years that I have 20 days into trying to kill a Montana elk. So I know this window of 7 to 10 days, that's my main go. But I'm also making a backup plan where if I don't kill a bull there, okay, the next weekend I'm taking a Friday and a Monday and I'm giving it 4 more days there. The next weekend I'm giving it 4 more days there. And then I'm starting to look at timing of where I think these elk will be in the mountains, where I want to hunt. I'm starting to work out the logistics of a hunt plan. Like, okay, second week of September, I'm going to hike into this drainage. I plan on camping here. If elk aren't there, I'm going to move my camp over one more drainage over to this spot. I'm going to hit this, and I'm going to make a big loop, and I'm going to take that time, and eventually I'm going to find those elk in there. And so, preparing myself for that, preparing myself for the shot. And, it's shooting arrows from my knees. It's shooting arrows at angles. It's shooting my broadheads. It's shooting at 3D targets. But it's also this visualization. And I did this in wrestling for years where I have like a release aid, which is just basically a string tied in a knot that's my draw length. And I have my release. There you go. You got yours. That's what I like to see, man. So yeah, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to visualize that giant bull walking out in front of me, and I'm going to visualize drawing back my bow, executing my shot, and watching that arrow hit right behind the front shoulder. So when I get to that position, I've been there before, and so I'll do daily visualizations of how I want this hunt to go down, and then I'll start to work on worst case scenario too. And not that I'm getting negative, but I'm just preparing for this challenge that I'm going to face. Like, okay, so I hit bad weather. What am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to ride it out in my tent, and then when the storm clears, then I'm going to hunt. And so I start like working through these problems already, and it's never the exact problems that I figured, but I start working on lightning. Okay, I've got a big lightning storm. I want to be off the peaks. I want to get down low. If it gets really bad, I'm going to sit on my feet, and I'm going to put my feet together, and I'm going to ride out the storm. And I start almost dealing with the fear, dealing with the challenge before I ever get there. And so that's like a lot of my prep. And then I'm doing that for each and every hunt throughout the season that I'm going to go do.
That is gold. I'm really appreciate you sharing all that. And specifically the part about grizzly bears, because I'm not going to lie. I've done some of those solo hikes in the dark in the morning. And I think that's the most scared I've ever been in my life. You hear something rustle and man, I mean, when you're in grizzly country by yourself, I mean, even if you're in the dark with other people, but especially by yourself. And so I appreciate you sharing that. It makes me feel like I'm sane and normal for having that fear. But, no, I love the thought process. I mean, from all the good stuff, the visualization to contingencies for all the things that we know can and will, yeah, I don't want to say go wrong, but adversity that we know will happen, right? Weather, or other people, whatever. Man, I can't wait to see the films that you have coming out, and you know, the hunts that you've got this year too. Let everybody know where they can get you on the podcast and see those films that you're talking about coming out soon.
Yeah, so you find me on the podcast. Eastman's Elevated is the main podcast that I've ran for 10 years. I do have a new podcast that I do with my good hunting buddy, Dan Picard. We're in our second year of that podcast. It's a bi-weekly one. It's called Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Life of a Bowhunter. It's really bow hunting specific. So you can find the podcast there. The writings in Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal, right, for both of those magazines. And then on YouTube, Eastman's Hunting TV, if you search Brian Barney, there's probably a dozen or more hunts on there. And that's where the 2 new films will drop. And they're probably the best films I've ever done. Like, filming is another skill set like anything. And when I first started, I thought, oh, I'm going to make the best films because I do the biggest adventures. And then they turn that camera on and I forget to talk into it. And I get home and I look at the shots and it just doesn't tell the exact story, but it's something I've improved upon throughout the years. And this high country mule deer film, it was 11 days from doorstep to doorstep. I had a buck jump my string, so I missed a buck day 5. So you get to see me at my lowest low, rode out lightning storms. It's all above 12,000 feet. And in the end, with 1 day of food left, I arrowed a great heavy buck. And he actually about died right there. And then he made one last go and made it off about a 300-foot cliff. And so I thought I was going to get down there and there wasn't going to be anything left. And luckily his horns were heavy enough that he scraped up his velvet and things, but all the meat was fine. Horns were fine. But it took absolutely everything I had to be successful. And I think that film really captures that, and it's in like the most beautiful, pristine country that you can find. And so that'll come out probably in the next 4 or 5 weeks, Eastman's Hunting Journal TV on YouTube. And then also my biggest bull to date, a 7.7 that I killed last year. Just saw the final edit on that film. And that one's more like we discussed about timing and really waiting. I moved in, I followed this bull all morning long, and then he bedded up in this timber patch. I knew where he was. And so I grabbed a vantage point on it. And then middle of the day, I see him bugling and he's out by himself on the edge of the patch. And I work into 30 yards of him bedded, and you can see his antlers right there at 30 yards. And he had one cow with him that I didn't know about, but that cow walked out perfectly broadside, could have shot her. And the bull walked towards that cow and then turned around, walked back in the brush. And I maybe had like one window to get a shot if I would have been drawn back, if I would have had a range, but he would have had to stop right there. And he kind of went over the hill, and I started to take chase in the cedars. And just all of a sudden I was like, this isn't a high percentage opportunity. I'm middle of the day. I'm in the thick brush. And so, I mean, I backed out 35 yards from the biggest bull I've ever killed, and I left him there and got back on a vantage point and then watch him come out that evening and make a perfect play, make a good shot on that bull, and my best bull to date. And that film turned out really cool as well. And so that'll follow up that high country mule deer film, but I'm really proud of them. I think they tell the story really well. There's great takeaways in the film as far as strategy and tips and tactics. And then it really showcases like the highs and lows of bow hunting. And of course, it's all public land, do it yourself. So it's like this common thread with you, what you do, Ryan, and what all my audience does. It's not a canned hunt or a paid for hunt, or not that, you know, there's any problem with hunting private ground, but it is tougher and more difficult on public ground. It takes a lot of work. And then to be successful on like such a great animals is really the highlight of my video career. So I'm really proud and really excited to release them.
That's so awesome. I can't wait to see those. And, you know, one of the things I have in my notes is patience kills the bull. And that's one of your sayings. It's one of the things that I've heard you say years, you know, time and time again over the years. And I think you demonstrated it right there with what you just said about that bull. And I mean, that's you putting your own thing into practice there, and you see how it paid off. And on the mule deer hunt, I mean, the other thing that stands out to me there is I think it epitomizes everything that it is what we love about these pursuits. You say getting that buck took everything you had. And those are the moments that not only make it so rewarding and fulfilling, but those are the things that drive you to increase your capacity for the next one, right? It's like, that's what drives us day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, because we know that the things that we love to do on the mountain and in life are going to require us to be at our best. And, I just, again, I think that epitomizes so much of who we are, who the audience is, and why we want to pursue, closing that gap between who we are and where we want to be.
Yeah, you nailed it. Dude, I always love talking to you. You always have such great insight. I wasn't able, I've just, you hit me with question after question that I'm answering, but your insight, I love the quotes that you bring up, your mindset, you really, live the ethos and are living your best life as well. But I just love your interview style and your podcast. And, man, it's no surprise to me why you're as successful as you are, man. I just really enjoy talking with you.
Right back at you, man. I think we're cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways. I really look forward to every time we get to talk and enjoy it too. Give me one more question for you, Brian. What's your final piece of advice for a listener who would want to be more consistent?
I think it's, it goes back to moving the chains in your book, which I absolutely love. I think it's day in, day out. It's doing the little things. It's working towards your goals and putting in the effort, whether you feel like it or not. And yesterday I worked a full construction day. I was on site, and I think I recorded a podcast in the morning before work. I did my emails, my book work. I went to the job site. I got home. I was on somebody else's podcast, and we recorded that podcast, and I got done late. It was like 6:00. And I had plans to get my workout in, and I didn't feel like it. I was tired. I was ready for dinner, ready to hang out for the family. But I told my family, I said, okay, I'll be in 45 minutes. I've got to get my workout in. And I put it in. So day in, day out, I shoot my bow. I get my workouts in. Day in, day out, I'm working hard towards my goals. And I don't always feel like it. Like some people feel like, the people that are successful are always motivated. Like I don't always feel like my run, or I don't always feel like this workout. It's going to be difficult, break a sweat. It's hot right now in the garage, but I just start, I just get going on it. And I always feel better when I get done and I put in the work to be at my best hunting the mountains this year. And so I think it's figure out what you want in life and the life you want to live, and you can achieve anything. Just start putting in that work day in, day out towards your goals. And no mountain is too high. There's no task that's too difficult or that you can't get to. I really believe in life. If you get the right mindset, put in the work, every single day towards your goals, you will get there. You will see great things. So I think just figure out where you want to go and start working towards it.
Perfect way to end the show. Brian, thanks so much for joining us today on the show. Really love chatting with you anytime we get a chance to do it.
My pleasure. Yep. Thanks, Ryan.